Hey everyone, and welcome! I am so glad you're here. Today, we're going to dive headfirst into Part D of your reading review packet. You can think of this as your own personal study guide to make sure you're feeling totally confident and ready for your test. So let's get started.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start off with some really cool science facts about matter. Then we'll jump into a super funny story about prairie dogs and a tennis ball. After that, we'll check out a story about two sisters and a very, very important lollipop. And then we'll wrap it all up and show you that you are ready to rock this. Let's do it.
All right, first up, we've got the passage, Many Kinds of Matter. Now, this isn't a made-up story. This is what we call nonfiction. It's here to teach us real, actual facts about the world. In this one, it's all about the stuff that makes up, well, pretty much everything.
So what even is matter? It's just a word for all the stuff around us. Everything you can see, touch, and even the air you're breathing right now. The passage tells us it shows up in three main forms, or states, which we're about to break down.
Okay, let's get into it. First up, we have solids. Think of a rock or your table. They hold their own shape, right? Then you've got liquids, like the juice in your glass. They flow and take the shape of whatever you pour them into. And finally, there are gases, like air. They just spread out and fill up any space they're in. And here's a super important detail from the text. You can't really compress solids or liquids. You can't just squish them into a smaller space.
All right, time for our first review question. Let's see what you've got. The passage is really focused on three main kinds of matter. Can you name them?
And the answer is B, solids, liquids, and gases. That's it. The whole science passage is built around explaining these three things. They're the big idea you need to take away from this section. Awesome job.
Okay, next one. And this is something I am positive we've all dealt with, especially in the summer. What happens to your ice cream cone when it gets really hot outside?
It melts. Of course it melts. But the science behind it is what's really cool. The solid ice cream is actually changing its state. The heat turns it from a solid into a liquid. It's a perfect real-world example of matter changing from one state to another.
Let's switch over to gases. So picture a pot of water boiling on the stove. You can see that puffy, cloudy stuff rising up from it. What is that gas called? You got it. That's steam. And this shows us another state change, right? When liquid water gets hot enough, it literally transforms into a gas that we can see. So we've seen a solid turn into a liquid, and now a liquid turning into a gas. And this brings us to a really amazing fact from the passage. Water is pretty special. Why? Because it's one of the only things we see every single day that can exist in all three states of matter, as solid ice, as liquid water, and as gas steam. How cool is that? All right, science hats off, story hats on. We're shifting gears from science facts to a fictional story. This one is called The Great Fuzz Frenzy, and it's got characters, a big problem to solve, and, a bunch of silly prairie dogs. So here's the setup. Imagine you're just a little prairie dog and bam! A giant fuzzy green monster falls right into your town. That's what happens here. At first, they're all totally freaked out, but this one brave prairie dog, Pipsqueak, goes to check it out. He figures out the fuzz is actually awesome, and pretty soon the whole town is making cool fuzzy hats and clothes. But as you can probably guess, things don't stay fun and fuzzy forever. A problem starts to brew. So why does a huge fight break out among all the prairie dogs? The reason is pretty simple, actually. They all want more fuzz. There's only one tennis ball, which means there's only so much fuzz to go around. And when everybody wants something that there isn't a lot of, well, you get a conflict. They all get a little greedy and start fighting over it. Now let's talk about this one character, Big Bark. In the beginning, he is a total bully. He's loud, he's bossy, just not a nice guy. But then, something crazy happens. An eagle swoops down and snatches him. And guess who saves him? The very same prairie dogs he was bullying. After that whole ordeal, he has completely changed. He goes from being a bully to being thankful and a real friend. That's what we call a character arc, seeing how a character grows and changes throughout a story.
Okay, let's get to our final story, Big Red Lollipop. This one is what we call a realistic story, which just means it's about something that could totally happen in real life. It's all about family, fairness, and what it's really like to have a younger sibling.
So let's quickly walk through the story. First, Rubina goes to a birthday party and gets this amazing big red lollipop that she wants to save. But her little sister Sana finds it and eats it.
Later, Rubina has to take a very reluctant Sana to another party, and it doesn't go well for Sana. But the story has a really sweet ending that involves a green lollipop, which kind of shows that everyone learned a big lesson.
So, let's zero in on the event that really starts all the drama between the two sisters. What happens to that special red lollipop that Rubina was trying so hard to save?
Her little sister, Sana, eats it. And that right there is the main problem. Rubina was so excited about her treat, and for her sister to just take it and eat it, it feels like a huge deal. That's exactly why she's so mad at Sana for a big part of the story.
But this story isn't really just about a lollipop, is it? It's about learning something much bigger. So what's the big lesson? The moral of the story that Rubina finally understands at the end.
The big lesson is all about kindness. After Rubina sticks up for Sana at that second party, Sana gives her a green lollipop as a way of saying sorry. And Rubina realizes that even when little sisters are super annoying, it's still important to be kind and to look out for them. That's really the heart of the whole story.
And just like that, we've made it through all 3 stories. You did an awesome job. So let's do a super quick recap of all the different reading skills we just flexed.
We started with a science text, which is all about giving you facts. Then we jumped into a fun fiction story, where we looked at the characters and how they solved a problem. And we ended with a realistic story that teaches us a lesson we can use in our own lives. See? Knowing what kind of story you're reading helps you know what to look for. It's like a reading superpower.
You've gone over science facts, story plots, how characters change, and important life lessons. You've put in the work, you've got this, and you are totally ready. Now go ace that test.